Hi, I'm Kat Iniba, and thank you so much for tuning in to Hala Hala. Today's guest is Giovanni Ortega, whose passion is to share stories from those who are not often heard, like from the Filipino community, the LGBTQ community, and people of color. And even during this pandemic, he's found creative and captivating ways of still doing what he loves through the Kanto Cuento series, also known as Corner Stories, through Theater Without Borders, and the Map of My Body showcase. First, tell me about Theater Without Borders and what you've been doing.
Yeah. So basically, I was kind of self-quarantined before it kind of hit the shores in the West and the Americas. So I was working with Danielle Banks, with DNA Works, with a text called The Secret Share, and there were a bunch of queer men of color, men of color, and kind of interrogating the text in post-colonial ideology. Anyway, so we were there for 2 weeks in Moncton, New Brunswick, Canada, and everything was starting to happen here in the States. And so basically, when we got back, that's when they shut the borders all over the world, which was really fascinating because I got back that Sunday, but that was, I don't know if you remember, but that was the Sunday when everybody was being asked to come back internationally, and there was that long line in airports. And luckily, there was border and immigration in international flights in Canada. So it was as if I was already in the States. So by the time I got back, I was in like Terminal 6. So it's like I never had to go through immigration. I didn't have to deal with that. And then 2 days later, Canada closed its border. I was about to fly out to Australia, and so everything kind of stopped. Yeah, it was really interesting. I mean, I think the first 2 weeks, I was like, oh my goodness,
what's happening?
Like I had everything planned. I was going to be in Australia for the Biennale, and then I was going to be in Milan, and then Venice in June, and that's when all of Italy shut down.
Yes.
So I think I say that it's really important to process when something so massive happens, So I was kind of really processing what to do next, and I was like, well, I'm gonna watch a lot of TV.
I think we all did that, especially in the beginning.
Right. Yeah, exactly. So I was like I got like a subscription to Hulu and then Netflix, and I actually bought a widescreen TV. I literally have like one of those old school TV boxes from the late 90s. And so I was like, well, it's a good time to invest. So I was watching a lot of TV. I was watching Handmaid's Tale. The show to watch during a pandemic. And I was like, and these performances are phenomenal. And I was like, and it was like an aha moment. And I'm like, wait a minute, I do film.
Yeah.
So it was like this thing that just, light bulb moment where I was like, well, what can we do to create art, right? And then the Zoom thing started happening.
Yeah.
And I'm not really a huge fan of these Zoom theatrical productions, which is kind of funny because I've directed about 5 at this point. So anyway, to make a long story short, I was like, well, I called my editor. His name is Patrick Nan. And I was like, I have this idea. I was like, we don't have to meet, but can you go around? And this was like, you go around Los Angeles, and it was desolate.
Yeah.
Right? And so I was like, can you document just going around the city, go to the beach, go to the Man Chinese, go to the Hollywood sign, to see how empty the city has become? And so that's the genesis of Coyote Swing.
Yes.
The swing gave us the view of these tall buildings that reach up to the sky, to embody how small we truly are. Griffith Park nearby, a pair of llamas, sentinels in the emptiness of spring, streetlights lonely without traffic, just a motorcycle whisking by. Masked like lost characters in a barren desert, siphoning air from a few feet away, exhaling fear like yesterday.
And the funny thing was like, if I don't know if you've seen, but like I was walking in Silver Lake one night and I saw a coyote. One coyote, and then another came down, and I was like, wow, it's a whole new level of observation and creation. So I was like, wait a minute, I think we have something here. So, and that's when I contacted another friend of mine who was in Turin, Italy. And this is when Italy was shut down. And that is, and I know Jessica started writing again, and her writing is really amazing. She writes these journal infused narratives, and I was like, Jessica, can you write something and then just document what's your surroundings,
Right.
and then send it to me. I'll send it to Patrick. We'll work on it, and that's when Travel is Prohibited came about. And I was like, her story is about leaving the Philippines, but there's a parallel thing with being isolated and quarantined in Italy. And it's talking about motherhood. And I was like, oh my God, can we get someone to sing a song? And Joan Amadea, I was like, Joan, can you sing this song?
Halika na't nakikita kita, huwag nang umiyak. Nandito na ako, iyong ina.
And that's the genesis of that piece. And I was like, wait a minute, if I could create good quality films, short films, albeit, then I could create more. And that's when I was like, wait, instead I can't go to all these different countries and all these different parts of the States, but people live there. Why don't I ask them to create something? And that's when I was like, this is theater without borders work. So I called Roberta Levitow and asked her, I have this idea of like corner stories, but corner stories being stuck in a corner, and that's what Kanto Kuento became. That's when we found the name of it, Kanto Kuento. And so 2.5 months later, we finished a whole series of 10 different stories, and it's been amazing.
I was wondering about that because I noticed that there's one from Australia, one from Singapore, Puerto Rico, and I thought, how did you get it all together? And so how hard was it to find the people? Or did you just put out like, oh, I know this person I know you've been around the world, so you probably knew contacts already.
To be honest with you, there was only, we did a call out, Theater Without Borders did a call out. But I also know all these people just because of traveling, right? I've been so fortunate to work with these amazing artists. And so I asked them. And they're like, well, I'm stuck at home.
Right.
So why not? And the only thing I could do is I can go outside myself. I could go for my run. I could ride a bike. And
they're creatives anyways, right? So they were like, yes, I need something to do. I love that they're short films and they're very talented. Like the writing, I was like, what? So I hope it keeps going. Really, I know it started because of the pandemic, but I hope you keep doing that. What are some of your favorites? Aside from your own. I love coyotes at night.
It's my least favorite.
You know what I love? Okay, I love that line you said. We have never been so, wait, we have never been so close before by being so far apart, I think you said. I was like,
Right?
that was
Right?
perfectly said.
Yeah, thanks. And you know how that worked was I didn't write, I'm like, I have this idea. And then I didn't write it until he gave me the cut.
What?
So I wrote it based on his edit,
Mhm.
right?
Yeah.
Uh, yeah, that's how
Wow.
it worked. Yeah, the swing came from the cut.
Wow. That's
That's how it was.
crazy.
And I was like, let's play it in the beginning, play it in the end. You know, and that's the great thing about collaboration and working
Mhm.
with other artists who are on the same level as you.
Yeah.
Um, I really like all of them. The thing that popped up right now because Texas is
Uh-huh.
in our psyche because of all the spikes
Mhm.
of COVID is Black and Alone. You
I
know,
like that one. That was very,
I know
that was so entertaining, right?
A pandemic doesn't change that. It just expands it to other races for a change. So I'm chilling. I got a pair of washed hands, food in my fridge, and Netflix on my team. Probably gonna do something stupid like become a quarantine rapper. What is that I see? Another sunset without me? Cause I was thinking that the world would revolve through it all like a ball, like a bounce with my hands. In the end, it would always come back to me.
I like frequency. Frequency was interesting, and I like dreams. I love the just the way it was presented, produced, the music with
yeah,
the just
yeah.
yeah.
Future like a caricature of myself, self-isolated and unoriginal, longing for the sweet kiss of conformity.
Zed is such a talented artist, and basically he had to go back to Australia, right?
Oh, yeah.
Because of what's happening,
Mhm.
and we've worked. He's one of kind of my former students, who's now my colleague, who I've worked with in Singapore. I've worked with him in Sydney, in
Oh,
Brisbane.
wow.
I was with him in London. So you know, it's kind of like this whole idea of what international imagination collective is all about.
Mhm.
Because that's just like-minded people who want to create narratives
Mhm.
or stories that we don't really hear.
Yeah.
And what I like about dreams is it's so funny how now you have to dream of a day when we could do what we used to do.
Yeah. Isn't
Right?
that crazy? Never would have imagined that we would be in where we are now.
Right,
Yeah.
right.
But it makes you
Yeah,
think and not take everything for granted.
absolutely, absolutely.
Yeah. You have a knack for finding talent. I know you've been working with East West players and doing the Map of My Body showcase. Tell me
Yeah.
more. One of them, oh, I got teary-eyed watching Rachel Lee's the questions I asked my mom, and then I thought it was done, and then the second part, and I was just like, I gotta watch this again. So sad. I mean, I've got a tear right now.
What? Right? Right?
I was like, who is
You
this
know?
girl?
Yeah.
How did
Yeah.
this all come about?
Okay. So here's let me spill some tea on
Yes.
the body series, right? So the body series was a project that started at the Hawk Center of Acting and Creativity in Singapore. Kamil Hawk started this acting studio, which has now kind of like exploded into something bigger. It's more like a kind of collaborative artistic space where artists can train and writers, you know, it's really a beautiful space to be in. So in 2016, I was starting my creative research called the immigrants diasporic imagination, immigrants diasporic imagination. And that's when I premiered Alos, to Carlos Bulosa's story there. And I wanted to start a project that kind of investigates the perception of women in Asia. Okay, so because I was going to Singapore, and that was called Creation of My Body. And that experience was so amazing. And so every year, I spoke with him, with Kamil, and then he asked me back to go, well, what do you want to do next, right?
Yeah.
So basically, we have 2 weeks to create a show together. So these writers create stories, and then what I'm good at is finding the through line in narratives. That's I'm confident in creating the through line, just because I've done the work for so long, and I'm really good at getting the greatness of each individual.
Yes.
I think that's just a knack that I'm grateful to have.
I think,
a gift.
you're a director, you're a creator, you know, you just see it, you know.
Yeah, so we did creation, and then what would happen was we would create in the summer, and then we'll bring it back in the winter.
Okay.
So that's how it happened. It's like
different people, or
it's the same cast.
The same cast.
It kind of varies because not everybody is available. So we would like bring some other person in. So it started with Creation of My Body, and then Words of My Body, The Thoughts of My Body, and then I started branching out and taking it to Australia. So a theater company, and now they were really interested in narratives from voices of color, right? So now I was like, oh, what's that like? Oh, let's create Canvas of My Body. You know, so this has been going on for a couple of years. And then, so I was actually about to teach the Body series with Written on the Body and Map on My Body with in person, like workshop and intensive. So I was like, with Jade Kagalawan, I was like, hey, why don't we do this? We'll do writing workshops for a couple of weeks, for 4 weeks, and then we'll take a break, 1 week off, and then the 6th week we do an intensive Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday workshop of like trying to hash out what they've written. I feel in my experience that it's somewhat like from my experience as a writer, I need like a couple of days to digest what I've written, right? But as an actor, as a performer, I was like, bam, bam, let's do it. Let's do it every day. And then the pandemic hit. And so everything was canceled. And then the Zoom thing started happening. And I was like, wait, Jade, this is the Body series is a solo performance workshop. So in essence, we could do it virtually. Because they're not acting with each other.
Anybody else, yes.
Right?
It's perfect.
And yeah, it worked perfectly. So I got to work with some phenomenal artists. And you saw, we had 2 people from London, Jasmine and Betty, and Portland with Rachel and Maddie. We had someone from Waitrose, Georgia, Hugh Gray, who's a journalist, but really wanted to delve in more performative work. Matt Denny from Wisconsin, and then Jairus and Jeffrey in California.
Wow.
I hope I missed someone. I don't think I missed anyone. I think that was 8 people. But so I've only worked with Betty in Singapore because she studied in Singapore, but now she's in London. And then I know Jeffrey Hahn because we worked together at East West. But the other artists, it was so fascinating. I've never met them. We're in person.
Wow.
So now
it was
all through Zoom.
Wow.
Yeah. And it was such a phenomenal enriching, emotionally exhausting experience because what happens when you take the human touch away from people?
Yes.
You're still talking to them.
How do you convey that? Yeah.
Yeah, and then what's specifically special about this group was now it's been a couple of months of being quarantined. The rise of Asian American hate crimes was in itself a pandemic,
Yes.
right? So I had people who were being affected by it personally, right? In different parts of the country, like in Wisconsin, Whitewater, Wisconsin, where Matt is, it's like you could count how many Asians there are, right? In Waycross, Georgia, rural Georgia, Hugh is like slim pickings, right? and then you get to like the way people see Asians in London, to people here in California, where it's we see it every day.
Yeah.
So that was such a great experience, and the final product was just, isn't that amazing? Weren't they great? I mean,
oh my God, every single one. They were so good. And I thought, just hearing the process and how you didn't even get to meet them in person. I mean,
right.
Yeah, very talented. Very talented.
Yeah.
So is it going to keep going? They're like,
It's so funny. This is the week where this is my week off. So
like, stop asking.
No, I'm glad because it's like near the end of the week, and I've been like just spending time. I think self-care is really important.
Yes.
You know, so I think it's a natural state. I think especially for being Filipino and being raised by an immigrant mom and coming from the Philippines, where I'm like, well, okay, well, I can't do that. What else can I do? Oh, I can do that. What else can I do? There was one night. There was a night where I had my iPad going in one meeting, and watching a workshop. You know, I was like doing multiple things.
You're like, hold on.
So I'm like, okay. So that's enough of that.
Slow it down.
Yeah, but to go back to the body series, and Camila and I were talking, and he was like, why fix something when it's not broken? You know, I think it has, there's like a spiritual essence with the body series specifically, because I realized that I was still grieving the loss of my Lola who raised me.
Oh, I'm so sorry.
That's what creation of my body brought out, was the stories about the mentors of these performers. All the performers were cis women from Asia, and other mentors, just being in the group, became like their mothers and their grandmothers. And so I do feel like, in a certain sense, out of all the projects that I've done, she's like, I'm gonna watch this one, Apo. I'm gonna watch this. And so I'm looking forward to continuing the project, just as I am looking forward to the second series of Kanto Cuento.
Ooh, so there is a second series. Tell me more.
So I don't know yet. There's so much that I think, I'm like developing narratives for voices of color is something I realize I've been doing without really thinking it, you know?
You've been doing it for a long time too.
Yeah. And I think a lot of people always ask, oh, why do you do so much? Why do you write? Why do you direct? Why do you perform? Why are you producing all of this? And I'm like, until the time comes where I have several roles that I see on screen to look up to, where I don't have to think.
Yes,
right?
exactly.
The work's not done. And Shonda Rhimes said, you have to create content, you know, and so
I always say if you don't create it, then who will?
and we all know that when it was created by some other faction,
Yeah. Oh, that was the other thing I say too. And you never know if the person that creates it will do it right.
right. And that's
Right?
I remember when we first met, I was still doing Miss Clow
Mhm.
productions.
Yes.
Right? And I was like, well, I started a company because I want to act
Yeah.
in my stories. And then I realized, oh, I'm not the only one. Other
No.
people want their stories. Oh, and when we run out of stories, we have to create stories
Yeah,
that we've always known. Right?
exactly.
So,
That we can relate to.
yeah.
So I love that.
Exactly.
I'm so glad you've been doing it for so long, even before everybody started taking notice and doing. But you have a huge project coming up that I want you to share about San Diego. Tell me more.
Oh man. So I so Danielle Ward from the San Diego Repertory Theater Company um, asked me if I wanted to write a play. You know, she was really amazed. She was like, "Give me some ideas that you want to write about." You know, like usually you don't get that opportunity.
Right.
So I gave like Criers for Hire. So they're based in San Diego, and I was like, "Oh, it'd be kind of cool to do Criers for Hire San Diego edition, right?" And of course, I have Alos there, and I was like, "Oh, I kind of want to write about a gay man getting married, and what's that like in this
Right.
day and age, right?" And then she was like, "How about nurses? There's a huge population of nurses in San Diego that I didn't really know about. I just assumed there's Filipino nurses
Yeah, me too.
everywhere, but there was something very specific about San Diego." And so I was like, I don't know. I don't know much about it. I was like, I was nervous about it. And I was like, wait a minute, if you're nervous, then we should investigate. Why are you getting
Why?
kind of nervous? Why are you scared about this? And usually when I'm scared about something, it's something that I should unearth what's in there, right? And I was like, well, you know, I mean, what would I write about? I mean, my cousin Christina, who's like my closest cousin, is a nurse practitioner. She's an NP. My brother's wife is a registered nurse. I have a cousin who's an LPN. My ninang is a registered nurse. I was like, and then went on and on and on. And I was like, oh my goodness, I have a tita in the Middle East who's a nurse, and I was like, whoa, this is something. There's something here.
Yeah.
And I remember in when I was like starting college, because Christina, my cousin, was like already starting to think about going into nursing. We knew that she was going to go into nursing, and I was like, and I got a music scholarship, and I wanted to do theater, and I was like, yeah, Ma, I think I'm going to pursue acting, performance. She was like, why? You know, and I was like, I thought she'd support it because my family on my mother's side are all artists. My Tita Mercy is a singer. My mom was a singer. Tito Bell was a writer. You know, I thought she'd support it. She was like, no. And it's because she knows what it was like, right? It was like, at a certain point, it became a duty because it was what kept me alive. She would send all that money from Japan to my Lola, who was raising me. And so she knew how hard it was. But then she was like, just be a nurse. I was like, how about a doctor? She's like, no. 10 years? No. Just be a nurse.
Be a nurse.
You know? So, and I think that was the light that sparked. And I was like, so that's what it's about.
Yeah.
It's about this character named Libertad Montenegro.
Oh.
yeah, his mom's name is named Luning Ning. His best friend is Michi Novaliches. So, you know, so basically, there's all these characters who are different kinds of nurses. And basically, Libertad is working uh, at Barino Casino Resort.
Oh, how funny.
And then gets kind of laid off and starts thinking about, and the mom was like, well, just be a nurse, you know, just 2 years,
Right.
done. Or a vocational nurse is a year.
Yeah.
And then he goes out one night and goes karaokeing, and his friend, she was like, I dare you to do karaoke and do it as a drag queen. So he does, and he won $50. And then it kind of unleashes something inside of him. And so basically, that's kind of like the synopsis. It's called The Butterfly of Chula Vista.
Oh my gosh, you're gonna have to tell me more. Like right? So comedy musical?
Yeah. So it's definitely going to be a lot of lip syncs. I'm really, really excited. Just being very familiar with drag culture. I think it's going to be a lot of fun, and just for finding all the different. I don't know how it's going to be, and that's the great part of it. It's like the parallels of the different kinds of nurses and the different kinds of Filipinos and Filipino Americans. The parallel of putting on a nurse's outfit to the nurse persona to the drag persona of like, how do you feel when you put on women's clothing? And really kind of decimating the whole notion of femininity, you know? So especially in brown culture, in Catholic culture, Asian American culture. So I'm really excited to write this play.
Congratulations. I'm looking forward to hearing more.
Yeah, thank you so much.
So for all of us that are watching and want to know more about the Kanto Kuento series and Map of My Body, where can we go? It's all for free right now, available to watch, right?
Yeah, absolutely. You could always follow me on my website, giovanniortega.com. In addition to that, there's the YouTube channels of Theater Without Borders and East West Players, who did the latest iteration of the Body series, Map of My Body. You could also check out eastwestplayers.org because they have all these different opportunities to take workshops and intensives right now, since we're going on a virtual platform. So those are the different places you can go to. I also want to do a shout out, especially that now that we're kind of in a global world with this online workshop and training, the Hawk Center of Acting and Creativity. So that's HCAC.SG.
Okay, thank you. And then to find out what you've been up to, we can just head to your website, right?
I try to update it as much as I can.
Pretty good. Thank you so much. It's always a pleasure catching up with you. Thank you for just sharing our stories. I mean, like I said, if you don't do it, who's going to do it? And you do it so well.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Kat.
Yeah, come back. Nice to see you too. Take care.
All right.
Bye.
Bye.
To watch the entire series of Map of My Body, you can head to the East West Players YouTube channel. And to watch all of the short videos for the Kanto Kuento series, the Corner Stories, you can head to the Theater Without Borders YouTube channel. And for more on Gio, if you want to see what he's been up to, head to his website at giovanniortega.com. I'm Kat Iniba. I'll see you all later.